Hey everyone, it's Will, GamerDad, with another video for you. So in today's video, we're going to do a fresh run and try to show you multiple runs to show all the different secrets within the newest green key dungeon available after chapter 104, which is Entrana. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. I also do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. So unfortunately, this is a long video only because it took over a dozen runs to kind of expose all the different random secrets in Entrana. And this is not including the fact that you'll have to buy a lot of the different items along the way, even as this. The reason for that is just like the previous Omegopolis dungeon, you'll have kind of a regular currency as well as a rare currency that drops from special weather conditions, aka rain. You'll notice that for most green key dungeons, there's kind of a rare map where you can get specialized items and you can trade them in for various pieces of armor, grass to ore, and other key items, even things like rare pet or sidekick equipment. And so, of course, with the very first run, you get to talk to a scientist, and this is a mini quest on its own, which I hope to have documented. However, there were certain sparkles, different colored ones that I did not actually film each and every location. However, I felt they were pretty straightforward. So if you run each dungeon, as in each of the 3 different sections, you will see sparkles, and then you'll report back to this scientist here. Basically, the problem is that he swapped bodies with his boyish self, and so you'll have to kind of solve that on his own. Now, in the very beginning, you can't do anything at all. You're just walking in and just kind of talking to everyone. So that's kind of what I'm doing right here. All right. Otherwise, you can heal as usual. And if you want to talk to all the various ones, which I did do again for the first time, the bus ticket is something that I would recommend buying relatively early on. However, I decided to buy all the different kind of pieces of key items, so to speak, before buying the bus ticket. If you're planning to spend a lot of time here in this dungeon anyways, then the bus ticket will probably save you more time in the long run. However, for the sake of this video, I'd rather show you all the different things that you can do, because once you buy certain items and you use them one time, it will permanently unlock different areas of the dungeon. So again, just like Omegopolis and other green key dungeons, there are 3 different areas, each with a different set of mobs, as well as different bosses, and so on and so forth. There's actually a 4th area that you can use 30 currency which is catnap, I believe, to unlock. And again, that's very similar to the other dungeons out there. I do show that later on in this video, and that one does increase the chance of you getting an enchant script if you want to, and that's also less mobs in general. Now, at the beginning of each run, you get a meteor chunk. Those can be used to open up phase shifts within any of the 3 sections. This is the main section, and you do have to clear every mob if possible. You will be able to use these materials to buy and upgrade various pieces of armor. And the key part of the armor is that you'll want to have as many of those as possible. As long as you're running it over and over again, I'm sure there's really no problem. Now, being that this is my very first time in, I want to show you some of the struggles I had with an all Thunder team. I thought that Thunder would be the right way to go. However, that was very, very silly. So in my second run, I did adjust my team, and that's the team I currently use to beat all areas of the dungeon. So check that out later on. That being said, with Orlea and a pretty good Thunder team, you're really not going to have too many issues. There are also I will say bosses as well as mobs with barriers and so on and so forth. So you can see a sparkle there, and the path being blocked by a rock. We will be able to buy a key item to unlock that later on. And again, you can technically avoid all the mobs if you want. However, like I said, if you're grinding out light and shadow points, especially in this case only for camouflage, then you will be running this over and over again, especially if you've already maxed out Ash Tier or some of the other green key units, in the past, like I have, in which case you will be spending all your time here. So let me know in the comments below what kind of teams you're bringing into this dungeon. See if it is similar to mine or not. I mean, this dungeon is out for already 3 months, and so I'm very far behind with it. However, I'm sure that people who happen upon this video later on as they get through the main story might find this a little bit useful. And even if you're a veteran of the game, you may have missed one or two small things. And if that's the case, I really hope that this video does illustrate some of the various access points and kind of various features of the dungeon, which is really the reason why I'm filming it. I'm sure this is actually pretty old content for most of you, but as you know, when I do any video, it's not only to kind of, shall I say, teach people or whatnot, which obviously if it does help you, it helps you, but it's more to document my own journey through the world of Another Eden. And sometimes I actually do watch my own videos afterwards just to kind of see, oh, have I learned from this? Am I better than before? Or did I miss something along the ways? Because remember, when I do a lot of these videos, they're actually untelegraphed, and I don't have any, guides or anything like that. So there's going to be a lot of mistakes on the way. I do appreciate many of my subscribers and followers who watch the channel that they give me some hints as to what I should do. But at the end of the day, I definitely like to learn by trial and error, and I think that does make me a better player overall. Again, this horror has, I believe, an HP stopper at 50%, and oh, no, it doesn't actually. However, it does have a barrier afterwards once you get to a certain point. So keep that in mind. Of course, with 50-50 down to help protect us and type shields and so on and so forth with everybody, we are able to survive. It just took a lot more turns. And like I said, I have a much more optimized team. That being said, you really should bring Camouflage into this dungeon. There should be no reason why not to, because like all Green Key dungeons, you do have 25% chance of grinding out his, I think he's Shadow, whenever you run 2 Green Keys like this. So I do also think that for people who don't have a complete Thunder team like myself, it is a very useful unit to have. I think Camouflage does have a lot of potential as a free unit. Certainly better than, for example, Skull. And it's not like, we obviously have Aboro out there nowadays as one of our premier Thunder units, either Stellar Awakened or not Stellar Awakened. However, I mean, the number of actual DPS for Thunder is relatively thin. After, Oboro, you probably have only like AS Victor, ES Miyu, of course. Silver Striker can be used in some instances, and of course then someone like Camouflage. And I do like Camouflage having the type down, as well as just the fact that he's a magic unit that can help be boosted by mental focus, which can actually bypass a lot of things. Okay, so we're all finished all this, and so because this is our first run and there's actually nothing else to do, we can't actually go anywhere, we don't have enough currency to buy anything really. We're not even able to use the warp points with our bus ticket because we haven't bought that key item yet. We can only go to the Sacaritas Ruins. One other thing about this that's really, really good is that, unless you've grinded out 100 of each mob throughout the main story in the overworld, you can do that here. Now, obviously, the materials that are being dropped are different than the ones in the overworld. However, you still get your 100 mobs, requirement, in which case you get a few stones. I mean, not much of anything, but it's still one small, nice award. Now, here in this dungeon, Thunder does do very, very well, and so obviously in this case, I'll be a lot more capable in terms of handling this particular area. Okay. Again, definitely not optimized for my very first run. I do apologize for the longer run, but I didn't want to cut any of this content out because after all, I'm sure you like to see my trial and error and, so on and so forth. Now, the other thing here is all the different areas also do have chests. Most of them are just fragments, like as in attack fragments or support fragments. Some of them have high-class scrolls as well. I don't believe any chance or any really big key items are available in these chests, and so in this case you can skip them. And if you're on a speed run, you don't even have to kill all the mobs. I just think that over time you do want access to all the different pieces of gear, in which case you do want to grind them out. And besides, you'll probably be here for the foreseeable future until they released more main story and have a new dungeon altogether. Otherwise, why not grind out Camouflage? I do feel that Camouflage as a unit is probably a little bit more useful than, for example, the Altinas of the world, or Serene's not bad because she has an AS. Garyu is still good, and of course even a zombie, but a lot of those Grasta and Grasta ores are obsolete, or you just get enough of them and that's pretty much it. Thank goodness for hold ground. A lot of status effects here. I did not equip Tetra because I was using this video from other team comps when I was showcasing different boss rushes and things like that. So totally unprepared, like I said. Okay. Other than that, well, mobs can be cleared by an AF, absolutely no problem at all. Also, make note, we cannot adjust the difficulty of the dungeon. They are all, in this case, 110s and so on and so forth. And so even the horror, I believe, is level 120. And so make sure you do have a fully powered level 80 team, all Grasta set up, and so on and so forth. Your average farming team may not be sufficient to take down a boss like this. One of the other reasons why I'm doing so little damage, I didn't have a pain setter, so something to bear note. I mean, Orlea can with her pain setting Grasta, however, wasn't dedicated pain setter, and so I was having a lot of issues with that, which is, like I said, alleviated by my future team. Other than that, once that is in place, you can see that Terra Electric does extraordinarily well. Remember that also Camouflage does you extra damage during Awakened Zone because he'll turn into Thunderlord status as opposed to just regular Thunder Zone. Okay, so again, since I'm unequipped, I didn't kill all the mobs this time around, but I definitely do kill them all with my future team. Now in this case, we're going to get the chest. These chests do have chant scripts, as you can clearly see. My very first run did have a chant script, which is pretty ridiculous of all sorts. And we see Empty Echo, which is one of the bosses from the first area from the Sakurita Ruins from the storyline. So all the bosses and horrors and mobs showcased in these videos are based on mobs from previous, parts of the overworld and storyline. Remember that this with Chaos Zone, all elements do a lot more damage, so keep in mind that you are going to take a lot of damage if you're not well prepared. Also, you can see a 10 hit 100% barrier unless you have a barrier pierce. And thank goodness we have hold ground. And then we're just going to AF this to death. So one other thing to note, even if you start with a fresh bar, as in no bar at all, you can, by killing all the mobs in the main area where you're gathering those catnaps, as well as the mobs here in this dungeon or any of the other future parts of the dungeon, you can get enough to get a half AF bar, in which case you can just always just AF down the boss. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Ugly start. The next portion of the video will be a lot more clean, so don't worry about that. And remember that you do require, just like all other green keys, a level 360 light or shadow team overall. In this case, I did bring a full team of 398. And of course, like I said, Camouflage Shadow can be increased by 1 at a 25% rate. So you get a small award, 10 stones or 20 stones, badge, and so on and so forth. Again, look at the team. Don't bring this team. This is totally not optimal. This is definitely more useful for EX3 stage, for example, for the boss rush that just came out a little while ago. Okay, so again, pretty standard stuff. Everyone relies on Pain Grasta in order to do a lot of damage, which is why the damage was pretty inconsistent. And of course, BUES in the back. Okay, so that was the very first run. Pretty ugly. However, now that you've done a couple of runs, we can now start buying different items. We're going to buy the Master Key, and the reason for that is by using the Master Key, we can now unlock a new area to explore. Also, at the very start of the run, you see rain. Then you can access a special area which will give you one of those special items that you can use to trade in for key items or special armors and things like that later on. And I'll show that to you. I didn't trade anything in. However, I do want to show that you can get those and you will be accumulating them over time. So if you don't see them in the first few runs, don't fret. They are pretty rare. I don't know the exact rate of seeing them. However, just check it out. And this is in the main area. So once you see the rain, as you're exploring the entire main area and killing off everything and collecting those pineapples, you'll get this Napata or another fruit here. It's kind of a little cat garden. However, you don't get any luring, shadow, or guiding light items. And for the first time, once you have the Master Key, you can blast away this rock. Remember to tap on that sparkle so that it gives you a hint, because if you don't do that, you won't be able to continue that mini quest that will unlock the scientist's body from the very beginning. So now that we're here, we're in Torlutan, which is another town. Lots of various merchants and things. So you'll be definitely needing a lot of those napadas and catnaps. One thing of note is that you remember those shards that you get at the beginning of each run? There is an area here that does make your phase shifts more effective, just similar to Omegapolis. I do not recommend using any of those specialized items or shift things until you buy the maximum amount of space stabilizers as well as the time shifters. And the reason for that is because it allows you to kill more mobs, which give you way more XP, way more scratch and other things if you're still missing some of that currency in the overworld to buy all the various items and things in the game. Other than that, you can totally wander around, talk to each of the people, and you can trade away for, again, specialized Grasta. I think all of these will be very useful, but like most Green Key dungeons, they all require the rare items for the most part. If you happen to have tons and tons of catnaps, you can also do that, but in the very first few runs, you're more using those to unlock key items, which are, easier to come by. Same thing, golden and silver bolts to max out those levels in your sidekick equipment. Don't worry again if you've been running it for a while and you haven't gotten everything. It's some RNG here, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you see a couple of different people, and as people have problems, then you know that you can buy those key items to unlock it. And we'll come back to that a little bit later. Again, this video encompasses all the various small secrets that I did find along the way. So if you do see something that I missed, or you know of something I missed, let me know. Same thing, a lot of these specialized items, I think these are key items in order to reforge some of your weapons in the overworld that was unlocked from main story part 3.0. And these warp points, again, require a key item which I haven't bought yet. And so here's my actual second and final team that I am running. Note that, like I said, there is, team of Poison and Mental Focus Setter, and then you have Booster and 2 DPS here. So obviously we now have Falcon Grasta on Valette, so that right after Harai Jewel we can go Exosia or Exodia Obliterate, and then we can have Garyu blast away. And if Garyu can't finish off, Kamlanage's Thunder DPS will also finish off because he still benefits from Mental Focus. The good thing about this whole team is that even if you require Valette as a DPS, she is a magic user technically, even though she's a hammer holder. So bear that in mind. Also, again, various fragments, those chests don't really mean anything. There was a question mark earlier on, and we're going to go back to that. You will have to do that at least the first time. That will be a new area where you'll see a sparkle, and by interacting with that, then you can proceed with the mini quest, which again, over the course of this video is over 12 runs, give or take, depending on your luck in seeing the various features. So some of these horrors don't go down with one hit because of that, multiple shields. However, with another round, it is totally fine. Also note the environment is glaring sun, which will give you pain damage. So if your team is taking a lot of damage, you might need recovery items, either units in the back, like such as AS Odaha to recover HP, MP at the end of turn, or you have a Tetra, or you have, some sort of healer on your team. In this case, we have no healer on our team, just straight out offense and blasting away. And I do think that even after all this time, I'm so happy that I've grinded out my Garyu to 255. I feel he's extremely useful. Okay, so that purple thing, by clicking on it, that does help you proceed with the main part of the mini quest, and so you don't have to do anything else. Also, these exclamation points, we will have to come back to some of these a little bit later. They're essentially kind of shortcuts. You can buy items to unlock doors along the way for each of the 3 kind of separate dungeon areas. They'll make your future runs a lot faster. So if you want to pay a little bit of catnaps in order to unlock various paths to make your preferred route a little bit faster, you can do that. However, in the very beginning, I highly would not recommend it till if you bought out all the key items, unlocked all the main features, and then you can save yourself a few steps later on. For now, honestly, not big enough of a difference to warrant spending such valuable resources on things like that. Same thing, make sure you get the chest before the boss, and this will be the second boss that you are facing in these 4 areas, so to speak. And by doing this, absolutely no problem with the powered up Inferno. Hence, this team is definitely superior to the first team. Okay, that's pretty much it. And again, a reminder, make sure you have a full 360 shadow or light team to get all the rewards. Opuses cannot drop here. However, you can still get treatises and codexes. So there's the team. And based on the speed, I do have Chio try to be faster than Valette. And you can see my Falcon grass dot on her to make sure she casts Exosia before the preemptive move of Garyu, because we have 3 preemptive units actually here. Horai Jewel, which is Chio's preemptive, and then obviously the preemptive Exosia from Valette because of the Falcon badge, and then finally preemptive Inferno from Garyu, and then of course Kamlanage cleaning up. Okay, so next on, because we needed something to fuel up a tank from Toileton. Remember in that one building there was a postal worker as well as a guy who said, hey, we always keep on running out of fuel or whatever. So you have to buy them, and I think the key to most of these dungeons is if you can only buy one of the item, you know that the one item is probably pretty important. And so there is now a blue sparkle in Toileton. Make sure you click on that, and then you check back with the scientist, which is the first guy in the main area as you walk into the first steps of the dungeon. So he needs a fuel tank, you give him a fuel tank, and now in the next run after you give him that, you'll have the ability to go to Turaba. And again, in a future run is when you can talk to the scientist again. So a lot of back and forth. So again, a reminder, this video took multiple runs, over a dozen runs to really get everything going. And as you know, afterwards, when you start saving up enough catnaps, then we can buy the bus ticket. So now we've actually unlocked all 3 areas. The catnap allows you to warp through the different warp points, free of charge, unlimited uses, saves you a lot of steps. So after you explore one area, you can warp directly here. Those are the areas where you use the bus ticket. And again, press on the sparks or the sparkle to lead into the tower. So this is now the 3rd area outside the dungeon, and you can see the cracked areas where you can use your phase shift items to unlock or awaken the phase shift. Also, you don't always have to use an item. Sometimes randomly it'll be phase shift for you, in which case you can enter free of charge. The advantage of that is you get a lot more scratch and other goodies, in which case you should always do that. And XP is also huge in that area. So if you're bringing a person that you're grinding up to level 100, for example, a Stellar Awakened unit such as in my case Suzette in the back, then Suzette can help collect a ton of XP while your main 4 really runs the fight. Because in all these dungeons, I never had to bring Suzette to the front line. This magic team that has mixed elements is more than capable of taking things on, especially, like I said, with a full-on Garyu. Obviously, if you're newer to the game and you don't have a 255 Garyu, it's going to be a lot tougher, but however, there are plenty of other units that can blast away, and I'm sure, like I said, there are plenty of different teams, and again, a reminder to let me know some comments, which ones you use, because I think it will help other players, especially if they've been struggling with this dungeon. The reason why I can say that is that actually my youngest, who is Andros Prime, he actually finished the main story like a few days or a few weeks in, or a couple weeks in. However, he stopped running the dungeon. He said, Dad, I always get one-shotted, everyone has barriers, and my team can't handle it. And then once I showed him this team, which he actually has all the units, he's now starting to run it. So sometimes it just takes some hints or just someone saying, hey, you can actually beat these with a reasonable amount without having one-shots, in which case it is a lot more enjoyable. I'm sure you know what I mean. If you always lose to the bosses and so on and so forth, you're never going to want to play the game, right? And so that's another reason I've actually started this channel, because I felt that, especially with so little information on the game itself, I tried to kind of showcase, in this case, long time ago, I showcased the other lands Barakai because there's nothing out there. There's only one guy called Living Green who is writing guides for at least for global, and there's a couple of YouTubers kind of showed a couple of things, but no one really kind of documented kind of what you need, and so I felt it was something I could get into, and that's 4 years later. That's why we're here. On another note, someone did ask me to make a guide for beginners, so I will try to work on that in the future. However, plenty of other things on my schedule in terms of content to finish off, both from a personal standpoint because I just wanted to document it for myself, as well as if you happen to want to see those as well. Okay, so back to the action. We do have our third boss from Turalba. Also, remember each of these different areas have different materials, and so when you are forging or making those pieces of gear, if you're short on one type of gear, just make sure you concentrate your future runs on the various stages that you need to. So you don't have to go necessarily to the furthest one. It doesn't make any difference. It's not that you get better or worse items. It's just that the different items are featured in each area. Again, that team one-shots all that. Okay, so remember we talked to the Sparkle in the Turalba. And then because of that, now when we go back to the scientist, and I did check back on him right after this. So these are in chronological order, these series of clips. The item in the back, which is that orb, is something that you can use 30 catnaps to buy a ticket to do. And if you buy a ticket, you can then fight a different boss, which I'll show you. Now, if you're wondering how I got the final part done, remember Turalba? We found the Sparkle and it said you need a ladder. Come back to the scientist. He'll say, okay, you can go visit that area again, and just go visit that area again. So I didn't film it because, as I clicked really quickly through the different runs, I didn't realize that was what was all that was needed. So yeah, there's no real puzzle solving after that. After you get that last Sparkle in Turalba, that dungeon, then go back there after you speak to this scientist. So using 30 valuable catnaps, which I don't recommend you doing. I'm only doing that for the sake of showing the fourth and final boss in this area. This one's actually the best area to run if you're short on time, because you don't have to fight anything. You just fight one horror, blast away at it, and it's more than enough. Same thing, 10-hit barrier. All these bosses are kind of annoying that way. Remember that even if there's a barrier, you can actually stun the enemy, in which case it won't do anything. In this case, the first turn, it didn't do much. It just kind of gives you some debuffs. Power down, which doesn't affect, by the way, my magic team. And then we walked all over it. Tetra also did 3 hits at the end, allowing us to fulfill that 10-hit barrier requirement. So same thing, these 4 chests don't give you anything special, just some fragments of attack or fragments of support. Nothing really valuable. You could probably steal that or find them from other areas, or even when you finish dungeons, So don't really fret over getting each and every chest. But again, for the sake of this video, I just tried to show you all 4 areas. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so again, you finished this main story already. So by going through this portal, you'll now face the final boss, which is, Hades, of course. And so we're going to take on Grand Hades. And this is exactly the same as the ending to the main story. Spoiler alert. By having thunder units on your team, you will be able to do extra damage because it starts kind of with the 5 hits of thunder, so-called break. And even if it applies darkness on your team, doesn't really matter, especially if you have a Tetra. But more importantly, magic goes through darkness. Only physical attacks are affected by darkness. And that's pretty much it. So, one-shotted the Grand Hades 2. And we are finished that dungeon. Same thing as before. You get your 5 items and so on and so forth. So, hopefully that shows you the difficulty level of the different mobs and the bosses. I really do think that this team is quite capable of handling that. Now, one last area to clean up. we now need to buy one of each of those items to remove these different barriers in our path. One for each of the 3 parts of the dungeon. You don't need one for the blood ring. So in Teralba, you'll get the Prism Blade Gem. Unique item, by the way, it's a key item. And in each of the other areas, you'll need to buy the appropriate item. So you'll need one for the Sacaritas Ruins, and also one for the we already did Teralba. It's one for the Labyrinth. Okay, and so we're going to go each consecutive run to finish off there. So in the Labyrinth, see how you know that these are unique items or key items is if you can see that you can open a door but it doesn't seem to go anywhere. That's kind of how it gave me a hint that there must be something extra. So there's your Dark Shade one, and we've got the Prism one already. And then finally, we're going to go back to the last one. Again, in the Sacaritas Ruins, you find the area that could be lit up or powered up for the kind of the platform. And you can see that it doesn't really go anywhere. See, you see those exclamation marks where the other ones would kind of give you a shortcut? The Thundercrack Gem is now found here. And then finally, the very last step, you can now go back to the main part and trade in rare items to get sidekick equipment. So that's pretty much everything I found, and hopefully this helps you along if you haven't found any of these just yet. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.